Carolyn Jones, and I need help. Um, I'm having a problem with school district. They're really bullying me and my son. I have 11-year-old son, 0.5-year-old son who's classified with autism, developmental delay, and ADD. When he was 5, his triennial, which is an exam they do every year, his scores were were good. But 3 years later, his scores were lower. And I questioned the district. I said, can you tell me what methods you're using to test my son, and can you send me home daily and communicate with me what you're doing with my son? When I went to the principal and asked this question, the principal told me, well, we don't do dailies, but we do weeklies. I said to the principal, listen, my son is not verbal. He really needs a daily communication. Then I said, and besides, I need the help with the ABA trainer who works in the house. And it would be better communication so I can understand your process and how you do it, so he can meet his IEP goals. She told me, well, we don't really we're not really obligated to work with the ABA trainers. I said, okay. Then I said, well, can you send home homework at least? They said, sure, but no homework came home. Finally, I went back to her, pushed, and they sent home homework. But I noticed that after I got the homework being sent home, they were just being put on the other side of the folder, not being graded. I went back to the teacher, and the teacher said, well, you know what? I did I did send home homework like you asked. At that point, I said, you know what? If they're not going to work with me and communicate with me, I can't help my son move forward. So at which point I went to the school district and asked for a person in charge of CSC, which is the department that handles children with disabilities. And I asked the head of the department, what could I do in order to get more communication between me and the school, and for them to fill out a daily on a regular basis. She said that was just always had been a problem. But then we discussed, well, maybe you need to be someplace else, because this was not helping my son. So at which point we decided, all right, let's bring him back to district. I asked her, maybe she could bring him back to district. So we decided, all right, we'll bring him back to district. We brought him back to district, and we put him in a 621 environment. But before we brought him back to district, I said, listen, is he going to need some support if he's going back to district? They told me no, he wasn't going to need no support. So I brought him back to district. I put him in the 621 classroom. And I just want to tell you, I may not have gotten the daily as far as helping him to achieve his goals. But while he was in that 621 environment, I got dailies every day, because apparently it wasn't the appropriate placement and they didn't want him there. So they sent me dailies every day. 1 month after my son was in the 621 environment, I got a call from the head of chairman of CSC, and the chairman tells me, listen, we're breaking up the 621 classroom and now sending your child to a 921. And I said, can you do this? He's having challenges in a smaller environment, which is a 621, which is 6 students, 2 teachers, and an aide. Can you put him in a classroom that's 9 students, 2 teachers, and an aide? And they said, yes, we can. But it's supposed to be a life skills class. I said, but he's having a lot of challenges in his classroom. Are you sure? They said, yes. I said, if I changed my son's class twice because he's having a lot of problems in this classroom he's in now, I really don't want to change him again, because that would be too much for him. So I take that Monday morning, I bring my son to the class. It's a 921. Well, needless to say, I get down the street, and the teacher's calling me. Who made this transfer? It's very inappropriate for this environment. I said, the district just told me to transfer him there. Okay, let me come back. I had to come back and pick him up. Then next day, I dropped him off again, like I was supposed to. And the teacher's like really upset now. And she started calling the district and everything, because not only did they tell me to drop him off there, they didn't have the proper supports, a one-on-one or nothing. And they didn't even send over his IEP or any of the tools that he needed in order to set up a program for him. Finally, we go through a lot, and finally the district through IEP meetings, we finally, at the end of the year, after him being in this 921 environment for a year, because what happened was they found a one-on-one eventually, and they put him in an auxiliary classroom. And then I went to about 3 or 4 IEP meetings, and in the IEP meetings, they wanted to throw him back in a special needs program, but I said no. I needed to see the program. I needed to make sure the classroom was right and make sure the kids were verbal and make sure they were willing to work with me as far as communication. We went through this process for about 3 to 4 months. By now, the school year is almost over. So he'd spent a year in the 921. But during that time, I also realized that they weren't able to give him occupational physical therapy and speech, which is related services. So what I did was I went to OPWDD and got him some help through what you call a Medicaid waiver. And I was so happy that maybe my son was going to get help. And so what I did was I took him to an outside facility, and after the 3rd visit, I turned around and they said, well, your Medicaid is being used by the district. I said, how's my Medicaid being used by the district when I just got it? Apparently, in one of those IEP meetings, the district had sat a paper before me and told me I was signing a sign-in log, but was actually me signing off on the Medicaid. Then they in turn filled his name in on top of the Medicaid paper. So I'm like, okay. So I went back to the district and I said, listen, I need help. Medicaid is being used. I need help because my son needs help because you weren't able to give him the services during the year. I'm trying to get him outside. Nobody would help me. And this was in 2012. Nobody would help me. And what happened was, I put him in the program the day he had decided to put him in, but I was very clear to people when he got into the program. I'm very data driven. I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what is IEP goals. I want us to work together. I want to understand your process, because me understanding your process, which goals you want, we can work together to reach those goals. Then set a baseline. We have a baseline review. Then after we have a baseline review, then we can work on next goals in order to close the gap so we can make improvements. I can tell you that whole school year that it was hard to get the teacher as well as the related services, which is occupational therapy, speech, and physical therapy, to work with me. And I went to everybody to try to get the help. Finally, someone said, listen, make it part of his IEP. Make him write it in there as a parent's request. Then they're obligated to do it. I said, okay. So the next year, I have them write in the IEP to request that I had them write in the IEP that I asked them to write. No, I didn't have them. I asked them to write in the IEP, listen, my son needs services, so I need for you to write it in the IEP that I'm requesting that occupational physical therapy and speech use the communication book on a daily basis and tell me what they're doing, what methods are they using, and how they're reaching their goals. After going through all of that, at the end of the year, they still weren't doing it. So at the end of that year, I began in January to call very early in January to ask for an early IEP meeting so we can discuss it and come to some type of conclusion. They would not give me an early IEP meeting. They gave me an IEP meeting in May, even though I called in January for an early IEP meeting. At which point, once they did that, I called the state. New York State charge of procedural safeguards. The state said, send me the information. I sent the information to the state. The state turned around and told me, Ms. Jones, the school district did not put need for an IEP, need for communication notebooks as well as homework to be sent home in the IEP. It has to be in the IEP in order for us to help. We can't say that they didn't adhere to the parents' concerns, but we can't say anything about the communication notebook or the homework. You'll have to go and ask for an impartial hearing. So that's the stage I'm at right now. I'm in an impartial hearing. And the impartial hearing right now, they're beating up on me because they're trying to say that act as if I wasn't a concerned parent, and that I'm not a concerned parent, and that I'm just asking for things that was way above what they could do. And in the IEP meeting, the person who's in charge of CSC says to me that my son was never transferred to the 621 environment in that particular school. And I'm really not mentioning the schools or the district because I don't want it to become a legal concern. What my question is simply this. If a child is in a 621 environment having challenges, can you transfer them to a 921? Number one. And number two, am I entitled to ask the methods and ask the teachers to communicate with me how they're achieving what they're doing with your child during the year? Or does it have to be written in the IEP? And number three is if you have Medicaid services and you asking them, listen, you're using my services. I need the services outside to help my child. Do they have the responsibility to tell you that, listen, at any time you can revoke those services? Or do I have to know that? I know this sounds a little wishy-washy, but if anybody who's in the area of special education, especially dealing with children with autism, can call me and help me. Call me and help me. My number is 516-830-8439. I really need help because I have an impartial hearing on September 4th, and I really need to know what direction to go because this has me stressed out, and I want my child to get a free and appropriate education, but this district is not doing it. Also, to add to matters, he has a summer program of 6 weeks, which is part of his 12-week IEP. Throughout the whole summer, after going through all of this, they refused to write inside of his communication notebook, and they then, a week ago, sent me a notice saying that they were changing his goals to goals that he has already mastered. I'm not thinking that this is being very fair, and I feel that they're bullying me and taking advantage of me. Again, can anyone help me? My number is 516-830-8439. Thank you.